Um, I'm going to read from this article, metricationmatters.com. So I'm reading part 1, summary. This article has 10 points, each of which is based on a word from this acronym, successful. The modern metric system, also known as SI, the International System of Units, is a system that is universal, coherent, capable, equitable, simple, supported, fundamental, unique, and legal. System. The metric system is the only measurement method ever developed as a complete system. All previous attempts using random developments at different places at different times and for different purposes. Universal. The metric system has been gradually adopted by all of the world's people. Despite often vigorous opposition, the metric system has always been successful. Coherent. Because the metric system was developed as a complete system, it was possible to design it so that it has an internal consistency. Its internal coherence means that if you learn one part of the metric system, you can easily extend your knowledge to all other parts. Capable. All crafts, trades, and professions can successfully use the metric system. Although the structure of the metric system is quite simple, it can be used in every human activity. Equitable. The metric system is fair and just to all who use it. Simple. The metric system uses only 7 base units and 22 units with special names. 29 units in all. There are now only 20 old measures left that are non-SI units currently accepted for use with the international system. Supported. International treaties and research keep the metric system modern and forward-looking. Fundamental. The metric system is the only system used internationally. It is now fundamental to all measurements, both old and new. Unique. The metric system is unique because it was planned. It is decimal, it is prefixes, and it is human in scale. It is unique because there has never been a measuring system like it. Legal. Legislation in every country in the world supports the metric system. It is often the sole method of measurement recognized by governments. International agreements also support the metric system so that contracts written in metric units have validity across international borders. Part 2. Detailed information. The metric system is a system. The metric system is a system that can eliminate measuring confusion. As a system, it ensures that quantities and units are uniform in concept and style. The metric system is a truly single standard system that is able to measure anything in any craft, trade, or profession. The metric system is a system of measuring units designed and planned with each unit as part of a whole. This is why its formal name is the International System of Units and its initials are SI from its French name, Les Systèmes Internationaux des Unités. The metric system has many advantages over all of the older pre-metric methods of measurements used in the world before 1790. The advantages of using the metric system include economic, social, educational, and psychological benefits. In contrast, old pre-metric measures lacked coordination of any kind. People had to use a great many different incompatible and largely incomprehensible methods to measure. This caused and continues to cause in many places a great deal of unnecessary friction and costs. The metric system is universal. The metric system is universal because it works anywhere and everywhere in space and time. It works wherever you are right now. It works at the top of Mount Everest. It works at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. It works on the surface of the moon and in deep space and all the galaxies of the universe. The metric system also works today, tomorrow, next week, and it will continue to work in the next millennium. Everyone in the world uses the metric system, and everyone in the world uses the metric system every day. Yes, that's right. Even the people in the USA use the metric system every day. To measure the electricity in lights, heaters, and TVs, to design and make all new cars, to design and build new space vehicles, to analyze breakfast cereals, to measure drinks such as wine, beer, whiskey, and most soft drinks. The metric system is the international standard used by every nation in the world, including the USA, for international dealings such as trade, and for international agreements such as treaties on drugs, climate, and pollution control. Products designed in non-metric units or using non-metric standards can cause serious maintenance and compatibility problems for customers. This can place the manufacturer at a serious disadvantage. As all nations of the world now use the metric system, it gives predominantly metric nations distinct commercial and trade advantages. If any manufacturer wishes to compete on the world market and deal with the USA, they have to absorb the additional costs of dealing with multiple methods of measurement, the metric system, and all the old heritage measures. People who have never left the USA might not realize that their customary inch-pound measures are practically unknown in other countries. For more than 95% of the world population, the metric system is the customary system of units, and it has been for more than 100 years. People in countries other than the USA are familiar with and expect actually prefer products made to metric specifications. They are neither familiar with or comfortable with the inches, ounces, pints, and pounds used in the USA. On the shelves of shops in other nations, inch-pound products from the USA are at a disadvantage. In today's highly competitive global markets, any disadvantage quickly translates into lost sales and fewer exports. Manufacturers in the USA simply cannot export items such as appliances and building materials that use non-metric measures, as this inevitably leads to less domestic and economic growth in the USA. With fewer new jobs, the most important loss may be to the USA's standard of living. If the economy of the USA is to grow, exports have to be increased. It has been estimated that each $1 billion in exports $1 billion in exports from the USA supports almost 20,000 jobs, and that more than 70 million Americans work in export-related jobs with higher than average pay. For most Americans, most of the names of old measures are essentially meaningless and useless for practical calculations. In spite of all the extra time spent on science and mathematics education in the USA, and despite all the training and the use of various conversion factors, very few Americans know how to convert between gallons and cubic feet or between inches and miles. The metric system is coherent. Coherence is not an easy concept to understand, so here are a few statements about what it means in practical terms. The metric system is coherent in its design, so there are no conversion factors to memorize. There aren't any. The metric system is coherent in that it is consistent with the decimal numbers we all use every day. The metric system is coherent in that it provides a logical system of units where all the symbols are treated mathematically, just like numbers. The metric system is coherent in that it is logically consistent. All parts of the metric system are treated the same way using the same techniques. The metric system is coherent in that there is only one unit for each quantity. This means that it is never necessary to change from one unit to another within the metric system. Compare this with the old inch-pound measures that come with a bewildering, random, and completely unsystematic set of conversion factors. Most pre-metric measures have multiple origins and complex, often obscure histories. Consider these everyday questions using old measures. How does the energy of a hamburger, measured in large calories, compare with the energy of natural gas, measured in therms, the energy of oil, measured in barrels of oil equivalents, or the energy of earthquakes, measured on the Richter scale? Which is heavier, an ounce of gold or an ounce of lead? Answer, an ounce of gold. Which is heavier, a pound of gold or a pound of lead? Answer, a pound of lead. How does the price of gold, measured in troy ounces, compare with the price of lead, measured in avoirdupois pounds? How does the price of an electric heater, labeled in watts, compare to the power of a gas heater, labeled in BTU per hour, or an air conditioner, labeled in horsepower? How does water flow, measured in acre-feet per year, compare to 1,000,000 gallons per day? In 1860, the British Association for the Advancement of Science promoted the idea that the metric system could be a coherent system without any internal conversion factors at all. In 1885, to achieve this internal coherence, the BAAS chose to use some units rather than others. After a false start with the centimeter, gram, and second, which proved to be too small, the BAAS chose the more practical meter, kilogram, and second as the coherent units. In 1901, Giovanni Giorgi in Italy recognized that electrical units could also be part of the metric system's coherence. This coherence idea developed until it became a core part of the International System of Units in 1960. The International System of Units is the SI is the modern coherent version of the metric system. The SI is the foundation of the metric system we all use today. Energy and power. This lack of ability of old measures to lead to understanding can lead to very serious problems in the world. Consider the world's pressing need to understand how we use our limited energy supplies and how quickly we use them. These questions directly relate to global warming. Fundamental concepts such as energy and power are essentially simple in concept, but they often confuse politicians because of the numerous ways they are measured with so many unrelated units. This complexity makes it difficult, if not impossible, for politicians to understand even basic quantitative information about the physical world around them. To understand the total world energy issue using old measures is quite difficult, even for scientists and engineers, and almost completely impossible for politicians and the rest of us. If you want to begin to comprehend global warming, you need to have a working knowledge of most of these 93 old pre-metric energy measures, because in the year 2000 they are still in use. Atomic energy unit, barrel oil equivalent, billion electron volts, British thermal unit, British thermal unit 0 Celsius, British thermal unit 16 Celsius, British thermal unit 20 Celsius, British thermal unit 32 Fahrenheit, British thermal unit 4 Celsius, British thermal unit 60 Fahrenheit, British thermal unit 68 Fahrenheit, British thermal unit international, British thermal unit ISO, British thermal unit IT, British thermal unit mean, British thermal unit thermal, British thermal unit thermochemical, calorie lowercase, calorie uppercase, calories lowercase 16 degrees, capital C calorie 16 degrees Celsius, lowercase calorie 20 degrees Celsius, uppercase calorie 20 degrees Celsius, lowercase calorie 4 degrees Celsius, uppercase C calorie 4 degrees Celsius, lowercase c calorie, uppercase C calorie diet kilocalorie, lowercase c calorie international, I guess, uppercase calorie international, lowercase calorie IT, lowercase calorie international steam table, lowercase calorie IT, uppercase calorie IT, uppercase calorie international steam table, lowercase calorie mean, uppercase calorie mean, lowercase calorie thermochemical, uppercase calorie thermochemical, lowercase calorie USA customary, uppercase calorie USA customary, Celsius heat unit international, Coulomb volt, cubic centimeter atmospheres, cubic foot atmospheres, cubic meter atmospheres, duties, dyne centimeters, electron volt, erg, foot pounds, foot pound force, foot poundal, giga electron volt, gram calorie, grams calories mean, Hartree, horsepower hours metric, inch pound force, Kaiser, kilocalorie 16 degrees Celsius, kilocalorie 16 degrees Celsius, kilocalorie 20 degrees Celsius, kilocalorie 4 degrees Celsius, kilocalorie 4 degrees Celsius, kilocalorie diet, kilocalorie international. So basically just kilo of all the calories above. We have kilo electron volt, kilogram force meter, kiloton TNT equivalent, kilowatt hour, kilowatt minute, kilowatt second, mega electron volt, megaton TNT equivalent, megawatt hours, Newton meter, Newton meters, Q unit, quadrillion, quad, Rydberg, therm EC, therm US, thermi 16 degrees Celsius, ton TNT equivalent, ton coal equivalent, ton oil equivalent, watt hour. What is even more concerning is that when converting from one unit to all these 93 different energy words also require 8,556 conversion factors to convert from any one measure to any other if energy issues such as global warming are to be understood at even a basic level. Remember, in the international of units, there is only one unit for energy, joule. Therefore, conversion factors are not necessary. There aren't any. Using the metric system to consider energy is comparatively easy. We know that energy is measured in joules and that we will probably need to use some large prefixes to understand our energy use on a global scale. Here are some figures to consider. If you are an average teenager, you will need 11,000 kilojoules or 11 megajoules of food energy each day. This is 77 megajoules each week, 330 megajoules each month, and about 4,000 megajoules of energy for a whole year. You might even like to think of this as 4 gigajoules per annum, as there are 1,000 megajoules in a gigajoule. Even a hardworking construction worker only needs about 5 gigajoules per annum. In a temperature climate, an average family household In a temperature climate, an average family household uses a bit over 100 gigajoules of energy in a year. This might go up to 150 gigajoules in a cold climate. In 2003, the USA used 112 exajoules of energy that was made up from 42 exajoules from petroleum, 26 exajoules from natural gas, 26 exajoules from coal, 11 exajoules from nuclear energy, and 7 exajoules from renewable energy. Similarly, when considering power, quantity is also much easier to express in the metric system. For example, 500 watts is much simpler to say and write than any of these equivalent amounts. 500 watts equals 0.05098 horsepower boiler, 0.1194 kilocalories per second, 0.142 commercial refrigerator tons, 0.4739 British thermal unit per second, 0.6702 horsepower electric, 120 thermochemical calories per second, 1,700 British thermal units per hour, 1,300 large calories per day, 22,000 feet-pound force per minute, 28.43 British thermal unit per minute, 1706 British thermal unit per hour, or 368.8 foot-pound force per second. The metric system is capable. The metric system is capable. From its beginning, the metric system had the motto, for all people, for all time. Mary, Jean, Antoine, Nicholas, Day, Carat, Condorcet.
I don't have any information about that.
Okay, Google is talking. All of the world's people and all of the world's crafts, trades, professions, and in all of their occupations can capably use the metric system for all of their activities every day. The metric system, the 7 base units, the derived units, and the prefixes of the metric system provide suitable units for everyone to use in all of their activities. The metric system is capable of measuring things that are very small and things that are very big. For example, the diameter of an electron is 6 femtometers, and the diameter of the whole universe is about 200 yottameters. The mass of a bacteria is about 1 microgram, and the mass of the whole Earth is about 6,000 yottagrams. And we can now actually say the mass of the Earth is 6 ronograms. The metric system favors the easier-to-use decimal fractions rather than vulgar or common fractions, which means you can use your calculator to check your metric system calculations. You can significantly reduce costs when you reduce or eliminate calculation and conversion errors. The metric system costs less to use than any of the old pre-metric methods, and much, much less than any attempt to use mixed methods of measuring that muddle old measures of metric units. Costs vary in different industries, but experience has shown substantial long cost savings soon overcome any initial setup costs. Most industries keep conversion costs to a minimum by simply planning to replace old equipment as it wears out with new metric equipment or by upgrading to metric units when new products are developed. It is obviously much less efficient for a business enterprise or an industry or whole nation to use two or more measurement methods instead of one. For a company, two measurement systems usually means two sets of tools, parts, two sets of product specifications, and two sets of marketing literature, as well as repeated conversions among units. By adding uncertainty and potential confusion to industry standards, using two measurement systems industry-wide multiplies the inefficiencies suffered by individual companies. Surprisingly, some argue that a transition to metric units would be too expensive. This arises from the false conjecture that initially it costs effort, time, and money to make the change to the metric system. However, experience in thousands of companies all around the world has shown that this initial expense can be reduced to very small amounts by careful goal setting and planning, and this problem completely disappears once the changeover is underway and the positive benefits, such as increased profits, are rolling in. There are even advantages to be gained by industry during a metrication upgrade. During an upgrade to the metric system, many companies have been able simultaneously to streamline their operations, eliminate inefficiencies, and reduce their inventories. The standardization of fasteners, components, and subassemblies increases the efficiency and productivity of all manufacturing processes. When companies upgrade fully to the metric system, they are often surprised to discover how little it costs and how much the metric transition has increased their profits. Upgraded metric companies frequently report positive benefits for their new metric products and services. When products destined for both foreign and domestic markets are designed and manufactured to the same metric specifications, companies are able simultaneously to streamline all operations from purchasing through manufacturing to sales and marketing, eliminate inefficiencies, reduce inventories, eliminate overlapping product lines, standardize fasteners, components, and subassemblies, increase the efficiency and productivity of all manufacturing processes, increase profits, and find new customers both domestically and internationally. Many companies are now seeing that temporary metric conversion costs are an investment that can reduce current costs and in a surprisingly short time provide a large return. The metric system is equitable. One of the key arguments for using the metric system is that it is fair to everyone who uses it. If you buy a liter of milk, then everyone in the milk production, processing, marketing, and retailing chain is using the same definition of a liter. This is because they are all using the same international standard liter for their measuring. This metric system is the same in all trades and in all professions, so it is the same for all nations, for all companies, and in all workplaces. The metric system is equitable and fair to all people of the world because it is based on established international standards and treaties, and because its international foundation is not based on politics that are peculiar to a particular nation or to a particular time. The metric system is not altered by political whimsy or corruption. We can compare this with some of the old ways when powerful groups deliberately corrupted measuring methods to serve their own ends. Customer confusion was the goal of many old measures. Consider the case of the intramuros and extramuros bushels that traders used in 18th century France. These terms, intramuros and extramuros, mean inside the walls and outside the walls. Traders bought grain from farmers using extramuros bushels that were as large as they could get away with, and they sold grain in the city used intramuros bushels that were quite small. This process of having different sets of measures for buying and selling goes back a long way in history. Deuteronomy in the King James Bible, scholars say this was written before the latter part of the 7th century BC, says, "Thou shalt not have in thine house different measures, a great and a small, but thou shalt have a perfect and just weight, a perfect and just measure you shall have." The Quran also says, there have also been measures created that make calculations very difficult and near impossible. Consider the case of the oil barrel. The first thing I know about the oil barrel is that it never existed. Oil is not put into standard barrels when it is pumped out of the ground, and it never was. An oil barrel is a simply made up container in theory that holds 42 American USA gallons, and this rounded whole number translates to 34.9726 imperial gallons, 5.6146 cubic feet, 158.984 liters, or 0.13 ton approximately. When you notice that the West Texas crude oil prices say $63.60, how can you relate this to the $1.30 per liter that you are paying when you fill up your car? By the way, $63.60 is equivalent to 40 cents per liter, and $1.30 is equivalent to about $4.10 per gallon in the USA. Compare this transaction to buying a kilogram of sugar. When you order a kilogram of sugar, you can be reasonably sure that you will be supplied with a kilogram of sugar or even a little bit more. When you use the metric system, costs can be easily observed. Everything can be discussed out in the open. Unlike the oil industry, there's none of the inbuilt deliberate confusion using non-existent containers such as the barrel that linguists refer to as obfuscation. The demand for an equitable system of measures has been a demand placed on all measuring methods from the beginning of recorded history. For example, in the King James Version, For example, in the King James Version of the Bible, there's the instruction, just balances, just weights, a just ephah, and a just hin you shall have. Leviticus 19:36. Oh, I forgot to read the verse number up here. Deuteronomy 25:14 and 15. As the book of Leviticus is one of the earlier books of the Bible, Bible scholars tell us that these demands for honest weights and measures have been around for about 10,000 years. Okay, well, I don't know if it's been around for 10,000 years, but